Subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell icon for the latest film interviews, features, and recommendations on the movies that matter. Welcome everyone. This is so exciting. This is of course the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne Film Club. We're so excited that we're starting this film club with a conversation with our favorite filmmakers. We're chatting of course today with Shoojit Sircar and Ronnie Lahiri. They're no strangers to the festival. They've been to the IFFM twice. Ronnie, Shoojit, of course, Piku in 2015 won Best Director, Best Actor, and Best Film at IFFM. In 2017, Pink won Best Director. So you're no stranger to the festival. This is, of course, these are strange, unprecedented, unusual times. So our lead up to the festival is a little bit different this year. The festival will be in October, hopefully, and we're of course beginning with the film club, and you know we're so excited that we're beginning with you, who are in a sense alumni of our festival. We've got a whole bunch of fans of cinephiles. They're tuning in from Australia mostly, of course, but also from New Zealand, Fiji, Indonesia, and Malaysia. They're joined. So we're really connected with the world, and very appropriate, Shoojit, given that your film, the latest one, the new one, Gulabo, Sitabo, drops on Friday on Amazon Prime Video, which means it goes out to roughly 200 countries. So very fitting that that all of the cinephiles on the on the chat today are from across from across. So welcome Ronnie, welcome Shoojit. I'm going to jump in straight and ask you all, what's it like, when it's 2 days before a new film coming out? Are there butterflies in the stomach? And is it a little bit different this time because the pressure of box office, the pressure of opening day numbers, opening weekend numbers is not there?
Yeah, absolutely. Rajiv, you have hit the right point, right spot where we are mostly nervous on the first day. Is that nobody is going to bother us with the box office numbers, at least me as a director. So I am out of it. But yes, but the excitement and the anxiety is more or less same, I think, because you put so much effort to make a film, and you really want the audience to enjoy every bit, every nuances that you have created. So that anxiety, I'm sure I am carrying it, and I hope another few days, another 2 days to go. So I think let's see.
Ronnie?
Yeah, it's strange as you said. I mean, first time, I mean, we are going straight to digital medium. So actually, we don't know what the pressure is. Honestly speaking, I mean, I'm sure OTT platforms have their pressures when they're dropping in new content. Little bit I am feeling when the Amazon guys keep on calling me, it's trending, it's not tracking, and so I'm learning. I mean, you see, on a natural scenario, you know that your Friday box office number is what is actually you track all the time. But here, I think it's a different way. I think it's subscription. It is the number of viewers. So we're learning. I mean, it's a good learning.
Was this, to both of you, was this a hard decision to make? One understands that a film is ready. There's a clock that's ticking. There is a meter, as they say, a price that's constantly, a fee that's going up, a cost that's going up. But also, Shoojit, you've spoken about being a lover of films. You grew up going to the cinemas. You grew up in Kolkata going to the movies. Ronnie, you've spoken about getting into the filmmaking business because you love cinema. Was this a hard decision to make? I mean, it may have been the responsible decision, but was it hard to take that call?
Yes, of course, Rajiv. I mean, when we started shooting Gulabo Sitabo, of course, it was a cinema release. It was a normal cinema release. And way we have shot it, and especially this particular film, let me tell you, I don't know I don't know about the Indian films, but my cinematographer has shot this film completely in a wide lens and on a one single lens, that is a 30 prime lens. So you can imagine that we thought of a cinematic experience for people to enjoy, and for myself also. So of course it was not an easy decision. And you're absolutely right that all this decision comes with the situation around that has happened. And that's why we adapted to the situation, and we thought we should move on. And that's what I did. I just took this decision. As I said, it's a tough decision. It was, but I think finally we took this decision and we abide by it, and we are happy about this decision. And we have now taken the film straight to the people at their home theater.
Ronnie, the benefit I would assume, I mean, apart from, of course, box office, the no box office pressure, is the fact also that apparently you all are dubbing in several Indian languages, but also 20 foreign languages. So the film, in a sense, becomes local for many people across the world, across many countries.
Let me correct it. I mean, we've not dubbed it because right now that's not
Okay.
an option. We've subtitled in 20 different languages. So
Even better, actually. Yeah.
yeah, so that see, I mean, where it came from was from the Oscar speech of the Parasite director when he said the
Correct.
1 inch of
One and a
subtitle, if you
half.
can,
Yeah. Yeah.
1.5 inch. So we thought that since we are going to 203 countries, let's cover as many languages as possible, so that when somebody is watching the film, it is more local to him. And it actually
Yeah.
came from while discussing with our grader, because we've graded our film in Europe. And when he was grading, we had given him with English subtitle. He was like, I can understand, but if it was in my language, it would have been even more, I would have enjoyed. So
Right.
we have subtitled in all these languages, and I shared it with him, and he was really happy. He was like, now I can tell my friends, my family who can watch, because obviously in a lot of countries in Europe, English is not the first language which we assume. So they have their own local languages. And so if the subtitling is in that, it really helps. So as you said, you have viewers from Indonesia and all. We've got in Bahasa, we've got in Malay, we've got in
Lovely.
Thai, we've got all these Korean, Japanese, all languages have been covered. So I hope people will enjoy.
Right. Shoojit, this conversation is meant to be from Vicky Donor to Gulabo Sitabo. This is your 8th film, 7th release as a director. Of course, one film remains unreleased, and one film is still you're still inching towards completion. Uddham Singh. Shoojit, when one looks at your filmography, and what strikes you immediately is just the versatility. Just how varied a filmography it is. I mean, you've got the comedies, but you've got you've got a political thriller. You've got a very deeply affecting film like October. You've got a big message movie like Pink. There's Piku, which is a film about relationships. I mean, Sujit, can you talk a little about the process? I mean, how do you decide what you want to do next? I'm guessing that there are plenty ideas floating around at any given time. How do you decide what will be the next film? And maybe Ronnie can then talk about how that is executed. I mean, what are the first steps towards sort of putting that together?
Rajiv, that's quite interesting, actually. So what happens is, yes, you're right that there are many ideas which float around and which hits you. But the foremost thing that I look into it, that if that idea steers me personally or not, if that one line idea gives me changes me, challenges me or not, can it take me to a little higher platform in terms of understanding life, or not? Just for making a film, I mean, I don't get too keen to make that film. So it's always been like a lot of film have people ask me why it's Gulabo Sitabo. I thought I never tried a satire in my life, and when I got the story, and when I was working on it, and I just thought, this is very ordinary, this is very simple. And sometimes to catch that ordinary, it needs a lot of sometimes an understanding and knowledge also. Lots of research, lots of reading, because films are all about human behaviors at the end of the day. Anywhere you go, anywhere in the world, it's all about human behaviors. So I thought, why not to pick up Gulabo Sitabo? The similar, I am picking up these subjects which steers me. Otherwise, I sit on it. If it makes me move and do something, and also I will also talk and thank Ronnie for believing and riding with me on my ideas, because these are not very easy to convince a producer to do these films.
Correct.
It's nice to talk after the film is done, but I think before the film is done, it's not easy to convince, because you have to answer so much. So I have Ronnie, so I'm thankful that I don't have to worry and go anywhere else.
Ronnie, what is that like? When Shoojit says, well, the next film is going to be about this father and daughter, and it's really just that. I mean, because that's a hard one, right? Piku is hard to describe in a line. And this business, as we know, when you're pitching to producers and studios, you're really pitching a one-line idea. I mean, how do you pitch an idea like Piku? How do you pitch an idea like Gulabo Sitabo? I mean, what have you learned in your years of producing that, that convinces you that you can do this? I mean, it's hard to reduce it to one line, but we have something that people will be interested in watching, and so we'll make it.
Yeah, I'll come to the thing where we had long time back done an interview together. You remember Pink?
Yeah.
So till that time, I was in the same boat with Shridha, where I had to convince the idea to a studio.
Right.
So that was the difficult bit. Now after Pink, we realized the freedom that we have it's the comfort level, and it's the trust in a certain idea of what Shridha or what a Juhi or any of our writers are doing, because we work with a very set people, kind of people, and the kind of ideas always are very common to us. So for me, yes, I mean, Piku, I really enjoyed, and I would personally say it makes us more on the toes, because it's very easy to make Wiki Donor 2, 3, 4 and be happy. And you just sleepwalk and you produce, and you sleepwalk and you direct. But the challenge is when you're doing a Gulabo Sitabo, which is in Lucknow, a satire. Parallelly, you're doing Udham Singh, a biopic, which is a period film. So even as a producer, you are like all the time. One is in terms of how to mount the project. Second is how to execute. Both are challenging. It's not easy. So it's something like you've not done it ever before. So it keeps you always on the move. Otherwise, I mean, it's like you shoot a film in a studio every day. You feel no challenge. You're like, let me go to office. So otherwise, I would have joined a 9 to 5 kind of a job and do the same thing every day. So this is what filmmaking gives us, is the challenge, that you challenge yourself on a daily basis.
Sure. Shoojit, what was the genesis of Gulabo Sitabo? I read many things. There was, I read somewhere that Juhi, who's of course your regular collaborator as a writer, y'all were in conversations. Y'all were talking about how to. Y'all were fascinated by how an impoverished class lives. I also read somewhere that the idea is in that traditional that folk puppetry, that puppet show, street puppet show. What was the genesis?
So the genesis of this idea, of course, came from Juhi, about this particular Haveli, and about this character Mirza and his wife Begum. The basic story is that there actually the trailer moves beyond the film is beyond the trailer, and of course the Haveli and the families who live there. So I think I call this as a Gulabo Sitabo world, So I just took my camera and I presented this and put my camera in every family's drawing room, and we just observe these families, how they behave, what they do in that particular situation, what they do in that particular crisis. So in a sense, it's very ordinary, Rajiv. It's so ordinary, I can't tell you. It's so simple, I can't tell you. And when you look back at life, there are many things that we do. And that's what my learning was while doing this film and while scripting this film. That many foolish things that we do are, when we look back, are actually foolish, and then we smile at them. And in terms of the Gulabo Sitabo, that puppet art, and I've clarified that, that came later when we made the film. Later on, we found that there is a puppet art like this in Gulabo Sitabo, and which is so we just paid an ode to this puppet art, and we used this as a metaphor to title the film. So this is the basic way, the genesis of this film.
Shoojit, it's interesting because you've turned simple and ordinary into very deeply moving films. A film like Piku is about a simple relationship, and then of course you extended to the road trip. A film like October, I mean, it's the simplest story of a boy waiting for a girl to come out of a coma. Do you ever wonder, and do you ever worry that even the idea of taking a simple story and ordinary, that does not become a formula? I mean, how do you make sure that that what is ordinary, what is everyday, that then does not become a formula. Because in this industry, in this business, and you've avoided formula, you've avoided the sequels, you've avoided the franchises. How do you make sure that even that, which has now become your your wheelhouse in a sense, the idea of telling simple stories about everyday people that one can relate to, about a life that almost feels ordinary, almost like nothing happens, and yet we find great comfort in those worlds. How do you make sure that that then does not become repetitive and a formula?
See, various factors in that. So, I think you're absolutely right that it's not should not become so simplistic and so that it becomes a formula. No, I think casting very important. Who are the players who are playing the characters and who are so that's very important. For example, Mr. Bachchan playing Mirza. The way he looks is, for me, it's quite unbelievable. The way he's transformed himself. Another is Ayushman, or the characters of Begum or Vijay Verma. So I think Vijay Verma. So I think one is the characterization, of course, and then secondly, slowly how you make sure that you take the people into that world. Sometimes you see a film with a lot of distance, like for example, a lot of foreign films, when we'll see with a lot of distance. And some films, we just go into it. Say, for example, when I was watching Capernaum, I was in 10 minutes, I was inside the film, absolutely inside it. I was in that ghetto and I was with that boy. And also that cameraman and the director she did not show the city like madness. She was with the boy. She was just with the boy. Because she knew that, okay, now I've got the audience hooked to the boy and I will just play with the boy. It didn't matter what she showed. Even if she showed me one beautiful sunset shot, sunlight shot, didn't matter. For me, only that boy mattered that moment. So I think, I try. I mean, these are small references that I'm putting. I also try to be, once in 10 minutes I have established, I just try to be with the character so that I can engage and take them to that world.
Right. Ronnie, what was it like convincing Mr. Bachchan? I mean, was convincing required? I mean, that looks like a tough transformation. The prosthetics, of course, that nose and that hunch. I mean, at his age, to go through an entire film with that hunch. I mean, I know he has a childlike. It's legendary. I mean, his enthusiasm for for trying something new and different and something that challenges him. But this is physically taxing. I mean, what was that like? Sort of, do you remember the first meeting that you all took with him and when he kind of understood what it's going to require?
Actually, as you said, his childlike enthusiasm, we didn't have to convince. We just shared some looks and all, and he was like, "I want to do this." And we were like, "Sir, we can avoid and make it a little lesser because it's really hot. It's going to be really hot in Lucknow, 45 degrees and so much of prosthetics." He was like, "No, I want this look. I will." So we said, "But it's going to be difficult." He's like, "No, I don't care. I will do it." So then we said, "Okay, then can we, sir, shoot it in winters?" He said, "No, I want to shoot it in summers. I like summers." So it's more than difficult. I think it was he himself was pushing us that go a little more, try a little more rather than just being simplistic. So it's hats off to him at this age. I mean, and with that kind of condition, he's a dream to work with, honestly.
Yeah. Shoojit, could you have done this film if he
Yeah.
No, I'm saying at his age, don't say that. Mr. Bachchan, if he hears, he will get pissed off. He's young.
At this young age, I meant. At this young age.
But Shoojit, could you have done this film? I mean, do you sometimes think who would you make a film with if that actor wasn't interested? I mean, who would have been the choice B if Mr. B had said no, or for whatever reason he couldn't do it?
See, we may not have moved on because you're absolutely right. If it was not, Mr. Bachchan wouldn't have agreed to the basic idea when actually Juhi shared. So we wouldn't have moved on and written a complete script. We would have stopped then and there itself. Because I don't think at this moment we could have moved. We would have done later sometimes and created the script because idea was good and we wanted to retain this idea with some other actor. But immediately now we wouldn't have done it. It was just because he agreed on the first line itself, on the first 2-line concept, and then we went on.
And was Ayushmann excited or a little bit intimidated when he realized that not only you're asking him to be in a film with Mr. Bachchan, you're asking him to be in a film with Mr. Bachchan where he's constantly meant to be bickering with him, where he's sort of meant to scream at him. And we've seen the trailer. They're constantly exchanging barbs. If Mr. Bachchan is giving it to him, he's giving it right back. For some actors, younger actors, that might be a little bit scary, you know?
Yes, I think so. I think it was. I mean, Ayushmann never showed it to me and told me, but I could gauge on the set that was little, that nervousness was there for sure on the first few days, and it's natural in front. If you're standing in front of Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, thinking whatever, he was a Mirza. So I used to tell him that I used to go to Ayushmann's ears and tell him he's not Mr. Bachchan, he's Mirza. You're talking to Mirza. You're talking to Mirza. So like that, you'll have to convince Ayushmann. You know, but I think Mr. Bachchan is also, he knows sometimes that, you know, he knows his aura also. But, you know, when he's on the set and in front of camera, I think he's one of very good co-actor. He's a fantastic co-actor. So I think Ayushmann took little time, but slowly when he also, because for him, Ayushmann, the only new person on the set was Amitabh Bachchan. That's it. Everyone was, otherwise he knew. It was an old, you know, family. Yeah. So, and for Mr. Bachchan also, he was the only, you know, the fresh face there. So for both of them, it took a little time, but I think, but they had a ball later. It doesn't look like that. It looks like they have been bonding for years, you know, when you see the scenes.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, so I think that's I think their talent.
That, you know, Ronnie, y'all were making Gulabo Sitabo, but you also had Udham Singh. I mean, I think did y'all wrap Gulabo Sitabo and then go into Udham Singh, I believe, but pretty soon after, right? What's that like for a producer, Ronnie, when you've got literally two projects at the same time and they couldn't be more different? One is you know, being shot in Lucknow, the other you're shooting in parts in, I think, was it Russia? You're going off to London. I mean, you know, what is that? I mean, Shoojit really throws you into the deep end, doesn't it? Nothing comes easy with this man, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I mean, it's the challenge that we were looking for, but this was too much of a challenge. I mean, we think of doing different kinds of films, but at the same time doing two different films was, but it was the situation. We had to, there were dates and issues and all that, so we had to do. And then we were like, instead of moaning and crying about it, we said, let's take it head on. We've never done it, but let's take it head on and do it. So I remember, I mean, luckily for us, Udham Singh actually was supposed to start before Gulabo also, much before. So there was a lot of 3 years of production already done. It was just the final pre-production which had to be done. So while we started Gulabo, Sitabo in Lucknow, I think after 15-20 days, I went off for another 10 days to Europe, and I was doing the entire recce's and everything, the setting up of the teams and everything. So it was like a two different world for me. Like, and then suddenly I come back to the Gulabo set and I'm like, okay, where am I? Here I'm thinking of 1930s London, and then suddenly here I am like sitting. So luckily for me, Gulabo, Sitabo, as in terms of production, was not very elaborate or difficult, because as we said, the most important part was in the pre-production stage was to find that Haveli, the right Haveli, which luckily we got it. So after that, we were in that Haveli only. So production wise, it was not much. So it was more from a creative point of view. Shridhar had to be really on the ball when Gulabo Sitabo was happening. For us, it was like, okay, you set it up, Gulabo Sitabo, and we can go in for the Udham. And luckily, we have two sets of team of my EPs. So I had a separate EP who was doing the project for Gulabo, and the other one was doing for Udham. So there was no clash on that front. So it helped in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, to both of you, I want to ask, when you all started the journey together, you all of course started with Vicky Donor. That was the first film that you all worked on together. You all were working with newcomers. It started with, you all were the small company, the small team that made this incredible film that broke out. And now, of course, you work with stars. You work with Amitabh Bachchan. You work with Vicky Kaushal while he's at his peak. Ayushmann Khurrana. You work with Deepika. I mean, how do you maintain your integrity, your indie, almost your indie spirit, because one looks at the films and sees that it's not compromised, and the truth is, and we can't deny this, that a lot of projects, when stars come on to them, they change. I mean, the reason for making them almost, you can see has changed along the way. That integrity sort of, goes away. How do you all maintain that, and how do you all protect that? Even when you're working with very big stars, many of whom are quite opinionated and control freaks sometimes.
Ronnie, you answer. I'll answer later.
Yeah, so see, in this kind of a scenario, I think the foremost thing is being upfront and honest with the stars that this is the project. And I think what we always say is the film is bigger than any of us in this kind of a scenario. So it's always better to be upfront and telling them that this is how we want to make the film and this is the way. So I'm sure a lot of actors also appreciate the fact, but see, if you are not very convinced on yourself, and if somebody is giving their opinions and then you start changing, then it comes to a situation where, as you said, Rajiv, the project starts somewhere and ends somewhere else.
Right.
But if you are very clear of what kind of a film you want to make and you're very sure about it, then I mean there will be discussions. It's a democratic kind of a scenario. You all have discussions. But then if you are very clear and as everyone says, the director is the captain of the ship, and if he is very clear what he wants, then it's rather easier. And I would say for anybody who wants to do it is, if you are clear what you want to do, it's better to tell the actors upfront rather than cribbing behind that, oh, this is not my film which I was supposed to make. Rather, not do a film with him and do some other film later with him than getting into it and then cribbing about it. So that's how I think we try to maintain our kind of films that we want to make.
Shoojit has this big smile throughout your answer. I feel like his mind is going back to those instances where perhaps there have been sort of times when you have to put actors in their place. Shoojit, what is the reason for this big smile? This very knowing smile.
Yeah, so there are 3-4 factors to it. Huh? Okay. So quickly, I'll so that yes. Of course, one factor is once me and Ronnie have agreed upon that what we are doing, there is no question. Then I think we are on board. So that's the first, and of course, second is an actors, most important, and especially from our industry. So my first mantra to the actor when I go and present it to him, first thing is this is not entertainment. So you be clear about it. So first, no, this is not. So first I get this out of my way. So if I can get this out of my way, my path seems clear. Now you agree to work with me or not, you want to agree. So this is second. And third, this particular film, we'll try to explain it to you. This is absolutely my film. I know the characters more than anybody else. I have lived the characters. So this second part of my third discussion is this. Fourth, which is very important, that I try to tell them when I'm on the set, that this film I am not going to play to the gallery. So that's the performance brief. So these are the 4 factors which I clearly are what I discuss with the actors. Once I've achieved this, I know once I know these are things I don't have to do, then rest is not a problem to do, because then you work, research, you enjoy your creative process. But I get these 4 things out of my way.
Out of the way. I want to ask you, Shoojit, and I'm not going to ask you for names. We don't want to gossip here, but I want to ask you, have there been times when you've had to kind of have a chat during the making, or, kind of remind them why they signed up for this film, an actor, an actress, because the structure of the film business is such, unfortunately, I mean, traditionally for too long, stars have been made to feel like they're the most important voice on a film set, which is completely not how it should be, because that's almost a sure shot formula of the film not turning out the way it was meant to be. Have you had moments of conflict? Have you had moments where you've had to have a chat and kind of remind them that, listen, we committed to doing this way?
Yes, with many actors you have to do, and you have to constantly remind them, because see, they have an influence of the outside world.
Correct.
And for me, it's not for me, my world is the script and my film, for example. So they are influenced by the outside world. I am also, but I have tried to cover myself and keep myself. I've guarded myself for now so many years, and I've practiced it quite well now. But for them, as they are exposed to the outside world, you are absolutely right. You'll have to constantly remind them, like a lesson, like an everyday lesson, that why we are doing this film.
You know, I know that we've got about 75 fans who are online, and they've got lots of questions. But before I open it out to them, I want to ask you a couple more. Shoojit, you just a few weeks ago we lost Irfan, and Irfan was so wonderful in Piku. He was, of course, a friend of yours, Ronnie. Both of you. I mean, this was an actor y'all did such incredible work with. How do you look back at your? I mean, what are the memories? What is your enduring memory of Irfan? When you think of him, I mean, it's almost hard to believe that this incredible man with so much life and such an incredible actor is just not amidst us anymore. And I know, Shoojit, you were very close to him, even as a friend. I mean, apart from a director-actor relationship, you all were very close. You were in touch with him for the last 2 years while he was recovering. Was it just very hard to come to terms with?
Yes, Irfan Khan. I mean, I cannot. I can't still forget about him. I told a few days back someone that I was telling my wife that he constantly comes in front. So it's very. I was trying desperately to take him out of my head and that he's no more, but he keeps coming in. And also, especially in the last few years of his recovery, when we were discussing generally, many things that we have discussed, we came quite close also. He and me opened up a lot about whatever his treatment was going on, generally about life. So, and then this happens, in the last, and especially after the lockdown, last 10 days of when he was in the hospital in Mumbai, and I was in Kolkata. So I was I could not be in near him. So that was also a disappointment. And yes, I mean, he fought. As I said, it was a difficult tweet for me to tweet that he's no more. He fought and really fought. And there is a guilt in me, let me tell you frankly. I've never told anyone. There is a guilt that, we could not, bring him back possibly. So, yeah, he will always, he's a big loss to the industry. He's the real loss to all the filmmakers. I think everybody took this as a personal loss.
Yeah. Ronnie, do you have an enduring memory of Irfan?
Yeah, I mean, as Sridhar was saying, that I never saw him after Piku. I never saw him as Irfan Khan, the actor. He was more like a real friend, a normal person. Like I remember sitting in my office and we are talking about how the prices of onions are going up to all that, and it's not like generally how stars talk. So it's that level about education of the children, because his son was going in for certain kind of education, and so we were discussing, because my daughter is studying now in New York, so we've been discussing. So it's always been about these kind of small matters, ordinary things. It was never those big things that, oh, let's go to Cannes or let's go make film like that. Those are the cliched conversations. But with him, the best was that we always had the most ordinary, most regular kind of conversations about life. So, I mean, that is something which I'll definitely miss with any actor.
Okay, we're going to start taking a few questions from the cinephiles who are very excited to have you in our midst. This is the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne Film Club, and the first question we're going to take from Manoj Sukhrani. If we can unmute Manoj so he can ask his question directly. Manoj, you can ask your question.
The question is for Shoojit sir. So what is your process of directing, and are you more into prep and workshop prior or on the set in front of the camera, like prep only? And what was your experience, in directing Amit ji? Because I saw the video yesterday and you're actually telling him, and you're doing things on the set. So please.
The process is quite simple. First, I tell them my most important the process is I ask them to read the script as many times as possible, because that's my everything. That's where you will find your reactions, your characterizations. That's most important. And second, of course, there is a workshop, but my workshop is different. It's not similar in all the films. It depends person to person. So I gauge and I I talk to that person. I know what kind of personality he is, and the workshop is according to that particular personality. With Mr. Bachchan, he is so meticulous. So his style is little different from the other actors. So he is more into reading the script and understanding the characters. He's a lot of preparation that goes into him. For example, Irfan his preparation is just he will listen and he will listen to you and he will start performing. So take after take after take, Irfan will get matured and matured and matured. But on the other hand, Mr. Bachchan is fantastic with first take or the second take because he's prepared so much that he just gives you the right take on the first or maximum 2 takes. That's it, not going beyond that. So that's how my preparation is.
Thank you. We've got a question from Shivangi Bhaumik. Shivangi, if you want to ask your question now.
Hi, Ronnie sir. Hi, Rajeev sir. Hi, Shoojit sir. My question is for Ronnie and Shoojit sir. I found that when I watched your movies, there's a subtle message that I pick up. For example, from Peak, I found that really teaches us the importance of a child looking after a parent, and then would be the biggest takeaway for the audience from Gulabo, Sitabo.
Okay, I didn't understand the question. Sorry, can you, Rajiv, you can repeat?
So I think she said that from Piku, the big takeaway was caring for one's parents, the relationship between a parent and a child, and she's asking what is the big takeaway from Gulabo Sitabo. Am I right, Shivangi?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Rajeev.
Well, I think takeout is all yours. It's too early for me to talk about it. I don't make films for moral lessons. I just make a film and a story. There are many moral lessons that you can take out from this film. But do watch out for some human behaviors which we do normally in everyday life and don't realize what we're doing. So, and yeah, you will watch for that. And maybe next time when we do, I'll tell you more about life lessons possibly from Gulabo.
Okay. Can we take a question from Neeraj Nanda, please? Neeraj, if we can unmute Neeraj so he can ask his question.
My question is for both of you. I myself have been in lockdown for more than 2 months, self-imposed, and have been watching too many movies on the streaming services. Maybe around 40 I have seen already, and used to see much more on cinema halls in my younger days. And so, are you people really reconciled to the concept of streaming, or you still long for those big screens?
Mr. Neeraj, the magic of cinema will never fade away. I've always said. I think when the lockdown opens up and relaxes, I think it's a normal human behavior to come together and watch something. Maybe it's a stadium and a tennis match or a cricket match or a cinema. So I think human behavior is all coming together. So cinema magic will never fade away and it will remain. And of course, streaming is now a new evolution. So I think it will also coexist with the cinema. So that's what my thoughts are.
Ronnie, you want to take that as well?
I think he's answered most of it. Yeah, I mean, obviously cinema, humans, we are a community kind of a people. And as he said, whether it's sports or theater, movies, music, concert, it's best enjoyed when you're with a lot of people or with the whole community, you enjoy it. That magic won't be there when you're watching it in a streaming. But as we said, these are not regular times. These are unprecedented times. And we took a decision basis today and this situation. It's not like all my films are going to be on streaming. As soon as it opens, I would be happiest to have my next film on screen, big screen, where everyone can go and watch it together. Definitely.
Right. Thank you. Sunny Pathak, you can ask your next question.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't have video right now. Just want to know Amitabh Bachchan's look. What was the inspiration behind that look?
Mr. Amitabh Bachchan's look? Yeah. I mean, if you walk, I don't know, you've been to India. If you go to Lucknow and you just walk around in the old city of Lucknow, you will find many Mirzas like Mr. Bachchan's look there. Or in old Delhi, if you go, I've been from Delhi. I've seen in Chandni Chowk, Jama Masjid area. So this is and internet is a big space for the look. There is a Russian artist, a pencil artist, Olga Memory. So that the references of those paintings were also our inspiration, some. And apart from that, in internet, if you go, you will find a lot of these references. And in the film also, some real actors that we have used, they also look like almost similar to Mirza, Mr. Bachchan's character.
Shoojit, I'm going to jump in. That nose is, how heavy was that? How long did it take to arrive at that?
See, it was quite something. That nose was a difficult job. I think we did many trials to get that nose. Yeah, it'll take 2 hours to 3.5 hours. So for example, if we have a morning 6 o'clock schedule, so for Mr. Bachchan, so I would go to the van and say, yes, he'll say, Shoojit, tell me tomorrow's call time. And I was scared I knew that 6 o'clock call time, because it's summer and it will be less heat in the morning. So I should shoot 6 o'clock. So somehow I'm scared. I'll tell him, sir, possibly 6 o'clock. Okay, fine. Then I should come by 3:30 or say 3 o'clock. What do you think? No, I said, sir, you want to sleep, and then I hope and how will you manage? Well, then, no, you don't worry. You tell me what time you want me at 6 o'clock set on the set. I said 6:30 is okay, sir. So he'll come by 3:30, and then he will be on the set by 6:30.
Wow. Tanvi Pardasani, if we can have your question now, Tanvi.
Hi, thank you for doing this. This has been really good. My question is, so you worked with Ayushmann in his first film, and now you're working with him almost after 8 years. What's the difference in working with him in Vicky Dona versus now?
I didn't feel the much difference from Vicky Dona to this Gulabo Sitabo. I just felt he just walked out of Vicky Dona's set and he entered the sets of Gulabo Sitabo. So that's what I felt. Yes, I know that there's been a lot of films that he has done, and he's been doing really good, especially at the box office, and his performance also. I have not seen all his films. I've seen just few. But I think he's much more matured. He understands. And for Gulabo Sitabo, I think he knew that he's coming in front of Mr. Bachchan, and also he's coming back to our set. So I think he was well prepared for that. So I think and he played Baake Rastogi absolutely like a non-Ayushmann character. So you won't find, when you see the film, you won't find any Ayushmann, a bit of an Ayushmann in Baake Rastogi. He is that perfect. It's my view. So I think, yes, he has matured a little bit.
To Ronnie, I feel like Ronnie may have dealt with the new Ayushmann. I'm sure there were a few more zeros in his fee this time around, Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean, that's given. For 8 years, he's done well and he's earned it. So, I mean, I have no this thing and giving him the extra zeros. But the good thing is that him as a person on set was the same boy who we met in Vicky Dona, who was doing his first film. So that is something really good, because generally in 8 years, a lot can happen. And especially when he came to us set, he was riding on a lot of success. But good thing was that shows the character of a human being, that he was grounded and he is still the same with us on the set. So that's really good.
Lovely. Kanishka Arora, Kanishka, you can ask your question now.
I'm really looking forward to the movie. And my question was, like, we saw Karan Johar today posting about the hashtag Gulabo Sitabo challenge. And can you tell us more about the challenge and how it's like relevant towards the film?
Ronnie can answer that.
Yeah, it's more of a marketing idea, so I would say. See, it's the kind of language that is being used in the film. So we're trying to get you into that world. As Sita said, Gulabo Sitabo is a world. And so this challenge it's basically just to get you guys a little more interested into the world of Gulabo Sitabo. And any kind of challenge is participatory. So obviously, more and more people are going to try and do it, and it's a marketing idea. It gives to the awareness of the film, I would say. I mean, let's put it as bluntly as that.
Sure. Can we take a question from Nandita Chakraborty? Nandita, you have a question?
Shoojit sir. So, creative point of view, what was more cathartic, Piku, Wiki Donor, or Gulabo Sitabo?
See, it's very difficult to compare that, that experience or that judgment that happens, that we're asking about the Piku was more cathartic or Gulabo Sitabo. I think Gulabo Sitabo will also have a very, very strong, impact if you really enjoy the film. It's all about your mindset and how you enjoy the film and how you see it, and what's your state of mind and what's your point of view. So I would not compare it with three different, that in that film or this film. I think every film, that every creation, or I would say every art that you create, they have their own own shelf life, and they have their own what you call creative satisfaction. So I would not compare this.
Okay. Can we take a question from Kasuni Imbulana? Kasuni, you can ask your question now.
Hi. Can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Rajeev sir, and hi, Shoojit sir and Ronnie sir. I'm piggybacking on a different question that was already asked, but would you be able to show us how the Gulabo Sitabo challenge is done? Just to make it a little bit more lighthearted.
No, I'm very bad. I've tried that and I could not do it. So that's why I'm not in the social media doing this. Ronnie has been asking me to do it, and since yesterday, and I said I can't do that.
Ronnie, do you want to have a go?
Oh no, not at all. As I said, I mean, it's Lucknow Hindi, and my Hindi is not that good. I mean, honestly, that's why pestering Sujita to keep on doing it and putting it up on social media. Has been avoiding it. Yeah.
So you've just got a whole bunch of guys who are not feeling confident about doing it, but you can watch the film's actors. Mr. Bachchan's done it, Ayushman's done it, and they're getting all their friends to do it. So you've got a lot of people to watch doing the challenge. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we can take a question from Divya Murthy. Divya, you have a question?
Hi, thank you for the question. Thank you for this. My question is, what advice would you give Shoojit sir for actors who are maybe you're going to audition for your project sometime in the future?
My advice to you, that if you really want to join the Indian film industry, nowadays there are very good casting directors. There are Mumbai-based casting directors. There are Delhi-based casting directors. They are doing some excellent work. For example, my film is done by Mr. Jogi. So Jogi Casting has been doing my casting since my first film, since last 17 years. He's been doing all the casting of my film, and casting is now is also a job of a fine art. It's not that casting you just get somebody an audition and move on. No, you'll have to think in terms of the script. So casting director's job is so much important. And I'm so happy finally that casting directors are getting so much importance in our film industry now.
Lovely. Daman Soni, Daman, you can go. We have a question from you.
Sir, my question is, like for actors, there is casting companies, so many casting companies where actor can go directly or give interview, or even nowadays give interview online by emailing them their video. I want to ask what aspiring directors can do, what opportunity they have, how they can enter the industry, or what process they can follow. Yes, sir.
Sure. Ronnie, you want to take that?
No,
both of you
answer first, then after that.
See, aspiring director, So aspiring directors, I think there are very good institutes. There is FTII, there is a Chennai school of film school. There is an SRFT in Satyajit Ray Film Institute in Kolkata. So these are some very good institutes who are doing very good job in terms of their course, and they're all proper degree course. So I would suggest them. And apart from that, I think you can apply for being an intern to some of the directors. But straight being an intern, a lot of directors don't take straight away direct interns, because there are many people who are coming out of this school, film school. So this is the way that you can try yourself as a director.
Ronnie?
Yeah. So as Sridhar said, the education is very important. First, if you want to get into any kind of field, I think it's most important that you're equipped with all the tools to deal with that profession. So first and foremost is education. Post that education, I think it's very important that you assist some people for a certain amount of time, because you have the tools, but you should know how to use it and get used to it, practice, and then get into the whole thing of, while you're doing all this, you can start developing your stories or something, and naturally it's a natural progression that you can post that go into independent as a director. So definitely education and experience working under somebody is very important.
Okay, thank you. And we have one last question. This question is from Swara Samudre. Swara, you can ask your question now.
So my question is, for the process of selecting and viewing stories from emerging writers, what does that look like? And how does it look like from the producing section as well, in terms of, the value proposition, and how do you gamble, I could say, in terms of balancing the commercial and the critical acclaim? So how do you strike that balance, and how do you select new stories?
Selecting of stories, there's a lot of instinctive process which goes into it. And it's not that one is a two-line idea, and then also thinking and have a vision that this two-line idea could be translated into, or can we create or construct it into a 2-hour film and an engaging film. So I think that vision, I think it depends on a subject to subject. Sometimes it's come so quickly that, okay, you can see, and sometimes some subjects we have liked it as a 2-line idea, but we didn't move on to develop it further, because we didn't think that it can be made into a 2-hour film. But maybe someday we may go back and again, get that idea and start working on it. So it's very instinctive, and we see that can a 2-line idea be made into a 2-hour engaging cinema.
Ronnie?
Yeah. So obviously, first and foremost is the story idea, which is important for me also as a producer. Post that is when I get into the commercials of it. But I generally tend not to look into every script that, oh, is it a commercial film or not? I try to look it in a different way. Okay, this is a script. This is a good story. Do we want to make it? Yes, if we want to make it. Okay, then what we do is we try to see what is the threshold this kind of a cinema is going to earn. So there is a lot of examples. You have to sit down it and a lot of data. Okay, so hypothetically, let's say if this film is to do a X amount of money, recovery, a rough thing, then we say, okay, then the making also has to be basis that recovery. So it's never rejected basis that, oh, it's not a commercial cinema, because every film is not 100 crores film, which is like how people always put it. I mean, if it's a film which will do a business of 20 crores, so you do not make a film, the cost of making is not like 100 crore film. You make it basis a 20 crore recovery film. So basis that, and see, a good story is a good story. So we never mix critical and commercial elements into it. We need to be convinced that it's a good story to be told, and then we work out backwards on it.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I'm gonna allow one more question, if you don't mind. We've got Lydia who has a question. If we can take this question from Lydia, if you can ask Lydia, you can.
Yes, I just wondered, what is Juhi Chaturvedi's creative process? How does she work with you?
So our we have been working, I think this is the fourth film we are working together. So in every film, the process has been more or less the same. The idea comes in, a two-line idea comes in, a basic, and then it's lots of discussion and lots of nonsensical discussion actually, which does not make sense. So so that we and also some discussions that we get the few things that we don't want to do first, to get those things out of the way so that they don't come always in front and create a problem in terms of a basic vision of the film. For example, like in the initial discussion with Rajeev, we said, I tell the actors, first thing is that in your performance, first thing is we are not playing it to the gallery. So for example, in the writing process also, we make sure that she and me are on the same page, and it's harmonious, that we get this issue out of the way so that anything we write is just for the integrity of the film. So we discuss, as I said, lots of nonsense, and slowly when we think that okay, now we want to get little of sense, we bit by bit create. Say I share something, she notes down, she shares something, I note down, from there, and then say, for example, this discussion can go for 6 months, this discussion can go for 8 months, this discussion can go for an year, and then she is shut. Absolutely, she shuts herself for 2 months to 3 months, and we are not in touch, we don't are not in contact, and then she just writes. In case in the middle she has to share, she'll share. Otherwise, then she'll come out with straight first draft of whatever discussions we had, and from there is the draft after draft after draft.
What an interesting process. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask one question before we end. I want to ask both Ronnie and you, Shoojit. You all have made 8 films together. There's more, of course, that are going to happen. And they're all very different films. It's very clear that that you are interested in different ideas. You don't want to repeat yourselves. But what do you hope? Do you see a parallel? Do you see a thread actually? Do you see a thread running through the films that y'all have chosen to produce? Do you see a thread in the films that y'all are making? Is there one thing that you hope you will be known for and your company will be known for? When one steps back and looks at what y'all put out, what are you hoping will be the common thread in among the films that you make? I mean, it doesn't have to be thematic. It can, I mean, whatever you feel is the thread that's running through the films that you have made.
I mean, people remember our cinema, that's enough, and they can take out from the shelf film again and just put it and just watch it. I think that's the biggest we can think. Like for example, in this lockdown, I think more people have seen my films than when it released. So you can even, and a lot of people understood my cinema, the kind of films, the thoughts, that the small nuances that I have put in the film, they got it now. So I think, so these things matter. If they can take out a cinema and enjoy and also enjoy as much they enjoyed the first time, or it keeps maturing like an old wine, then it's more fun. That's what I want, nothing else.
Lovely. Ronnie?
I think I've been also thinking since you asked. So I think the most important thing that a single thread, if you look in all our films, is I think a very strong human story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the human, and that is the story. There's no plots or thematics which are there. It's purely human story. If it's a Madras Cafe, it's the story of Vikram, the person, his story. If it's Piku, it's the father and the daughter, their story, and Irfan's story. So everywhere it's the human story and their reactions to the life that they're leading. And I think that's the thing, and which is like a very everyday human. It's none of them are superhumans, which is aspirational. It's a very everyday human which we can all find in ourselves. I think that's what we would love to leave behind.
That's so true. As a film critic, as someone who watches your films, for me, I mean, I would say, it's that it's what Shoojit touched upon earlier. There is a deep understanding of the human condition, and there's great empathy for for your characters, towards your characters. These are people that you place in sometimes very extraordinary circumstances, but they respond in the most humane manner. They respond like the rest of us would. I mean, they're not like you said, Ronnie, they're not superheroes. They're not extraordinary people. They're just ordinary people who are put in sometimes extraordinary situations, and the understanding of the human condition is really comes through. So really, thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you, Shoojit, for your extraordinary films. All the best, of course, for Gulabo Sitabo. I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching. But I'm going to pass this on for the final sign-off to the festival director of the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, Neetu Bhaumik Longe, will give us sign-off. And hopefully, Shoojit and Ronnie, we'll see you all next year at the festival in Melbourne. You'll have hopefully 2 films out, before. I mean, there'll be Gulabo Sitabo, and hopefully Udham Singh will also be out by 2021 when the festival comes up. I'm going to pass on to Neetu. Over to you.
Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you so much for your time and bringing so much warmth into this our very first film club. And I'm personally so appreciative of Shoojit and Ronnie. You have a film dropping day after tomorrow, and you still took so much time, answered all our questions so patiently. So really appreciative. I mean, we had made big plans of being together in August and celebrating your film, but I think this is a good way, given everything. And please keep August 2021 free. Can't get rid of us so easily. And lots of love and good luck. And I want to thank everybody who's taken part today in our first film club for your time and your wonderful questions. And to all the aspiring writers and directors, from your questions, we do have the filmmaking workshop coming up where you have an opportunity to work with filmmakers like Onir, Reema Das, Imtiaz Ali and Kabir Khan. So just go to our website iffm.com.au and see the details. Hopefully one year Shoojita and Ronnie will also be there. So you never know. And Shoojita, Ronnie, Rajeev, thank you so much on behalf of the festival and all of us film lovers who are in another continent, but who love you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.